Okay.
Shall we go, Joe?
Yeah, let's go.
So, can you explain us how you built up the 3D lab?
Well, I started a long time ago as an interpreter, seismic interpreter in Shell. When I decided to pursue a career in university, teaching and research, it just seemed a really obvious thing to do, was to exploit the burgeoning database that is the seismic database.
Where did you get the data from?
By collaborating with petroleum industry colleagues.
How difficult was to get the data?
Not at all difficult. I think there was a real mood in the 80s to support the few universities at the time that were using seismic for research and teaching purposes, because let's face it, the feedstock for new employees going into the industry comes from the universities. So I think that was a driver, if you like, for people donating data to us in university research, that they would know that their students would be trained up with a little bit more realism than perhaps 19th century geological methods. So it was bringing something in the later part of the 20th century to standard curriculum and modifying it to take advantage of this new development. It's a fantastic database, a seismic database.
How difficult was to find the students or the researchers helping you in the lab?
Well, I think it's one of those amazing things. If you take a school kid and you stick them in front of a seismic section and you basically explain in broad terms at a level that they can understand, they will make an interpretation, and it will be a very fresh, virgin, exciting interpretation. Similarly, with a university student at the mid-stage of their university degree, they can make quite interesting interpretations. So I've never seen a problem with starting with somebody from scratch and exposing them to the techniques and letting their own imagination do the rest, learning by mistakes. I learnt that way, and so does everyone, I think.
How much of a headache for the red tape and the admin to handle the 3D lab?
Well, there have been times where the increasing reliance on the legal side of things has got me down. You just want to get a chunk of data, but it is millions of dollars worth of data, and it needs to be protected. So I understand that a certain legal protection is required, but the whole red tape associated with contracts and confidentiality is becoming an increasing burden. Partnerships are more complex. Different companies are involved in a license. So yeah, the old days of a single company with a proprietary survey are getting fewer and further between. Contractors are a great source of data, though, because they shoot them on a speculative basis, and they've been a great supporter of my students and myself in the past. I'd like to acknowledge that, really. The geophysical contractors have been terrifically supportive to all of us in universities using reflection seismic.
What about the budget? Where did you find the budget?
Well, I think if you have a reasonable idea, you can usually pitch it to someone and get support. It's been easier to get data without financial support than it has been to get the two in combination. But there have been lean times, obviously, with the business cycle. Research money's freed up at times of higher oil price and gets a bit tougher in those lower parts of the cycle. But you get by, and I think if you enjoy doing it, you'll find a way to win people over. If you've got a reasonable idea and you're passionate about what it is you're trying to do, usually you'll find somebody eventually with perseverance, because for any researcher, I think doggedness and perseverance is an important kind of bit of subtext. But I've never found that I haven't been able to do something for lack of money. Some things you can do for free, right? You just sit there and you play with data and you interpret it. You go in the library for free. So you can always make progress, and it doesn't require financial support. It's the students that need the support, really.
So how much time left do you have to do the science, the real science?
Well, with a bit of luck, another decade or two. I mean, there's loads of things. This is a really exciting time.
No, I mean when you are in the 3D lab and when you were there and you had to take, and you had to handle the admin, the budget, the data. How much time did it remain to do the work?
Well, I think it ramps down through your career. I mean, a lot of us find this, that I did nearly all the technical work in my 20s through into my mid-30s, and then as I built up my group and had more and more grad students, you rely more on them doing the hard yards, making those hard yards, and you guide them and train them, and that's your contribution. You challenge them, you edit their work, you sow seeds. So you have to think through the problem, look at the data in order to sow the appropriate seeds and not send them off on tangents. So if I was to say now, do I sit in front of a workstation interpreting as much as I'd like to? Because I still love seismic interpretation, but the answer is no. But when I look over people's shoulders and give them guidance, it's almost, if not as rewarding, it may be more rewarding to watch youngsters mature into really great interpreters, lively, imaginative, exploratory, and these are great things to encourage in the youth.
And so, did you find a role in the scientific community doing this kind of job that you have been doing, rising up students and researchers and helping them through your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a point when I realised I couldn't be fully engaged in undergraduate teaching if I wanted to train students at graduate level to the calibre of training that I wanted. So I had to trade off undergraduate training with postgraduate training, and that meant that I shifted more into a research capacity, and my university gave me the opportunity to do that. So essentially I'm a research professor, have been, and that allowed me to focus entirely on PhD training, not masters, not bachelors, but just going straight for the jugular with training up seismic reflection interpreters at PhD level.
How did you decide, how did you choose the students?
Well, that's a really interesting one. You want to see motivation above all else. You want to see that they're interested in the topic, genuinely interested, rather than just seeing it as a means to an end. I look for something in the eyes, a liveliness, curiosity, because a researcher isn't necessarily the student that comes with the best exam grades, and it's often been the case that ones who perhaps slightly underperformed in exams have got those other qualities. I've mentioned perseverance, doggedness, but the ability to frame the right question is really important, as well as something, a little bit of the artist, something imaginative, left side of the brain kind of thinker, slow thinkers rather than instant